Hi, my name is Carmel Rohani, and I'm joined today by Maria-Luisa Chavez, who is Chief of the NGO Relations Office of the United Nations Department of Public Information, as well as somebody who works with the Conference Planning Committee. Prior to this, Ms. Chavez worked in many other posts at the UN. She was Chief of the Educational Outreach Division for the Department of Public Information, Director of the United Nations Information Center in Athens, Political Affairs Officer for the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs, as well as Political Affairs Officer for the Office of Political and Security Council Affairs. So, since she'll be leaving the United Nations, or her current post, in a few months, we thought this would be a really pertinent time to sit down with her and reflect on what has been a long and impressive career of service to the UN. Ms. Chavez, thank you so much for joining us today and accepting the UN DPI Executive Committee's invitation to sit down and reflect with you. We thought since you will be leaving in a few months, so sadly, this would be a really pertinent time to sit down and reflect with you on what has been definitely a long and impressive career of service to the UN. So I thought I'd start off by asking what led you to this career path and what inspired you to first begin working with the UN and more specifically with your current position now.
Well, I think it started when I was born, actually, because I'm a second generation UNer. My parents were with the United Nations, my father in particular, and I grew up in an environment where, with peacekeeping operations, so I really grew up in different countries, so I used to consider myself a real UN roving child. And once you work and you live in a multicultural society since childhood, it's really very difficult to go out of it because already your way of thinking and your approach is so different. When I started my studies, I always wanted to continue my studies in history. So I started with history and then I turned it into political affairs and international affairs. So I in a way, I was preparing myself towards international organization, and it took a long time to get into the UN. It was not easy in the days that I had applied. That I was applying right after my master's program here at Columbia University, and especially because I was focusing also on economic development in developing countries. But after a wait of about 6 years and applying different positions, I finally was able to start in the Political Affairs Department,
Wow.
Political and Security Council Affairs Department.
Wow.
So it was a long wait.
But you were very determined. That's great.
Very determined. Also, it's really how you feel about the organization. It's the commitment and the passion you have and the belief. If you don't have that, you can't really give yourself completely to the United Nations. And I see this even now. I have friends who are completely non-UNers and they see, my approach on, and they say, oh, what do you care? You're retiring. No, I have to finish certain things. I'm fighting for certain areas, especially with everything that's going on right now with the possible restructuring. I'm trying to find ways to assist behind the scenes and because I do see, especially, I am very grateful that I'm finishing my career having worked with civil society. For me, I really didn't see I didn't realize the power or the importance of civil society until I was a director at the UN Information Center in Greece, because it was covering Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. And it's there in that position that I got to work more with civil society, and I really realized the power they really have if they're organized. I mean, they have a very powerful voice. And so when I was redeployed here in New York, and I was with the Education Outreach section, again, I wasn't that involved with, at that time, the NGO section, but I was seeing, all the NGOs, how faithfully they were coming to the UN and attending meetings. So when there was another restructuring, because it's been a life of restructuring at the UN, so I've always been restructured in different positions, transatlantically as well as internally and within the department. So if I had to change, I had asked that if I needed to move, I wouldn't mind moving into this NGO section. And that's how I parachuted, really. There was a restructuring done in the middle of the planning committee for the conference in Paris, and I surely parachuted there, and it was not easy. It was not easy. I wasn't welcomed very well either, I have to say. I always say I was baptized by machine gun by the NGOs at that time. Nothing personal. It was just that, their frustrations on other issues. Kind of, here I arrive, the newcomer, really descending from nowhere. And I was like, and in fact, I remember after my first meeting, and I was just shocked. I said, oh my God, what the heck am I going to be doing here? So I ran to my director. I said, you know what? I don't think I want to work there. But no, it's really been wonderful. Especially, I feel strongly that the successes of our conferences have been due to the unconditional hard work and support that the NGOs have put into this conference. I mean, the frustrations of putting the planning committee together and co-chairing, sometimes not easy either. But, just wanting the best. And I think that since also we had started with the conference in Mexico to bring in more also local NGOs to be part of the planning committee, I think that has been a wonderful new addition to the policy because you are more inclusive. I do not think that the NGOs, right now we have approximately nearly 1,400 NGOs, and I do not want the NGOs outside the United States or outside New York to feel that, what goes on in New York or the executive committee is only a New York-based kind of, because the executive committee does represent all the NGOs, but they need to be known. And that's still, I think work needs to be done on that because a lot of NGOs do not know about the executive committee. And I think it's very important to market the executive committee to different regions. The regional representative is a good idea, but I don't think it's yet at a stage where it can be productive. That can come at a later stage, and I think it would be very successful. I think still it's at a situation that NGOs need to know about the executive committee. And they have known about it as we took this conference on the road, because having members of the executive committee in the actual conference and having meetings and in the planning committee, having them. So I think taking this conference on the road has been a wonderful development for the conference, and it took our conference really to another to a real international level of a summit where we had member states involved, we had international press involved. And I think the results are that we have been able, thanks to our also host countries, that we have made history. Our Declaration of Mexico, and I say it's really the NGO's one, but for us it's like we're one family, and so I always refer to it as our, but indeed I have to be specific. It's an NGO declaration. Became a Security Council document. This has never happened before, ever, in the history of the UN. So to have a civil society declaration become a working document of the Security Council, I think is just, for me, it's one of the highlights, really. And also the following declarations that we've had have become documents of the General Assembly. But again, I feel we need to do more follow-ups on this. It's not just a matter of having a conference, a document, and then here it goes. So I think there needs to be more coordination, steps afterwards.
So it sounds like involvement with civil society has definitely been one of the proud achievements of your career.
Absolutely.
What have been some of maybe the challenges or learning experiences you've had?
Well, during this period, you mean, working
yes.
with it? Well, something that we're going through actually even right now, I'm a visionary, and I've always been a visionary and an idealist. And what is disheartening sometimes is to see maybe NGOs who might have a completely private agenda, and whatever that might be. That does create issues because it also reflects, it gives a quite, a negative impression on the NGO community at large. Or, a lot of challenges I'm having or I had is really having to report, whether it's to security or to our legal affairs, NGOs who are misinterpreting the logo. They're not allowed to use the UN logo. I know there are details that, I mean, it takes a long time really to put all the evidence together, but once it's there, I'm obliged to report it. And or NGOs, the way, I mean, the misuse of the passes also has been a very, very serious and sad experience for me, where then, we have to find solutions. I mean, and you can protect to a point. The NGOs also have a responsibility. And so that has been one of the other major challenge I've had. I mean, this has been a challenge really within, let's say, the office work and policies. But another serious challenge has been also working in the planning committee at a distance. And not having necessarily 100% support from the department, but in the sense that without funding. We're an extremely small office. Probably it's going to become even smaller now. And quite frankly, I am extremely proud of what this office has done, because putting a conference together, being the secretariat of the conference, where at this point you need to work with OLA because of the memorandum of understanding with the host country, working with the different UN international offices in the host country, has not been easy. Especially now you're dealing with different cultures, different people, so every year the biggest challenge I think for us and for the planning committee, I would say, is that we are starting from scratch every year. You cannot say, oh, we'll do what we did last year, kind of just an update. No, it's really starting all over again from scratch, whether it's with planning committee members, whether it's with the host country, the different mentality because of their culture. Some host countries might be providing more support, some less, or will have more funding, some less. So it's everything, and that has been difficult and challenging.
Oh. So it sounds like regardless of whether you will be involved with the UN or not, there's a lot of issues you're passionate about. I guess I would just say, what can we expect from you next? What's your next move after you leave the DPI?
Well, I might leave DPI. I might be a retiree, and I might leave the UN physically, but the UN will never leave me. And I do plan to remain active. The first few months I really have to take care of myself a little bit and put my life in order. But I am planning to work with NGOs. I'm thinking of being, I'll probably be between New York and Greece maybe. I'm not too sure yet. But already I've been talking to some NGOs. Some NGOs have approached me actually from different areas, and they want me to be with them, advise them, consult them. And since I'm here, I would love to help, because I think there is a lot of potential. It's just a matter of really being more organized. Now, what's also happening that, to be fair, a lot of the representatives also work. So it's not that they have all the time in the world, so they're really volunteering. But I think their voice needs to be heard more in a very diplomatic way, obviously. It's just, as we know with our charter, the charter does start with the peoples. And in 2000, when we had our Millennium Declaration, the emphasis was on the peoples of the world. So I think we need to take advantage of that. So even yesterday, or 2 days ago, I think, when we finished the orientation program, it was very difficult for me to have to say, this is our last orientation. It came to a point I forgot even Gail's name as I was saying, Gail and I couldn't even remember Gail's name. And it is difficult. It's difficult. It's a whole lifetime. For me, it's really cutting the umbilical cord right now. And actually my sister, and I'm so grateful to her for that, she plans to be here. She said, I have to be there the day you leave, because I know it's going to be so difficult for you. And for me too, even though she's not with the UN. But we grew up in the UN. She was the first Mexican born in Pakistan, and I was the first Mexican born in Greece.
Wow.
So, and our whole life has been the UN. And it's not easy, really. Being a roving UN child is not easy, because especially as you're growing up, you have to change friends, you change countries, schools. But when I look back, I don't think I would be the person I am if I hadn't had this life. and of course all the guidance and the belief of my parents. And I mean, till the end, it was the UN. It's always been the UN.
I think there's definitely a lot of NGOs that will be able to benefit from this lifetime of experience. So it's good to hear that you'll still be around too.
I'll be around. Yes.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us in what I know has been a very hectic, busy day for you. It's a pleasure to have you here.
And it's been a pleasure, and I really wish all the best to the executive committee. I've learned a lot from them. I do maybe want to even apologize that maybe sometimes I was coming a little bit too strong, but I really was doing it from the bottom of my heart. It wasn't, I knew that, something more could be done, or, and so I felt comfortable enough to be able to say, things that I was saying. But I wish all the best, and also in the future for the new group that will start. They have a lot of work in front of them, that's for sure. So,
well, you've left some big shoes to fill, so they have a challenge ahead.
That's very kind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure.